Welcome back to Financial Strategies with Andrew Adjemi in Connecticut and Daniel Adjemi in Colorado.
I was so excited in 1982. Oh, I was so happy. They finally came out with the Mustang GT again. The GT had gone away for a while, and I was enamored with GTs because my brother had gotten a Mustang GT back in 1965 when it was brand new and first out, and after a while, they had gotten rid of with the Mustang 2s that came out, they gotten rid of the GTs, and here it is, 1982, that you could buy a Mustang GT. So, man, I was excited. I was a newlywed. My wife was working at a Ford dealer, and I was able to take out a Mustang GT for a test drive because I was thinking about I was going to buy a Mustang GT because these things are cool. Well, I wasn't so impressed with the performance of it after all, so I wasn't too enamored with it once I drove it. But nevertheless, it was $8,200 for a brand new Mustang GT in 1982, $8,200. And it's kind of interesting because if you tried to buy that Mustang GT today, it's $40,000. Now, that's really crazy because if we adjusted the $8,200 for the CPI, that's going to be about $21,000. So $8,200 Mustang GT, if all things considered with CPI today, that would be $21,000. But a brand new Mustang GT is going to be twice that amount. So inflation impacts different aspects of our society and different people in different ways. I'm Andrew Adjemi.
And I'm Daniel Adjemi, and you're listening to Financial Strategies. Our conversation today is the new invisible tax. Dad, that really strikes home right there when you tell that story about something people can actually put a value on, right? And remember back, you talk to your grandparents and they say, that is so expensive. And you're like, that's what we pay for it. But they're remembering when they paid a nickel for it, right? Or they paid $2,800 for a Mustang. See, that sounds just ridiculous to me. That seems like some junky Mustang that you would buy off the paper because I've never seen something like that. But you actually had that opportunity to spend that money. And this is exactly what we're talking about when we're talking about the secret tax, this invisible tax, is you're being robbed, right? If you had that $2,800 in the bank,
$8,200 in 1982.
82. Yeah. Okay. My dyslexia. All right. $8,200. Right. If you had that in the bank,
yeah,
and it just sat there and didn't earn anything today, it's not going to buy you a Mustang. It's not going to buy you any. What are you going to do with $8,200? Pay off some bills? Because everybody's buying things with that because they can't afford anything, right?
Right.
So how do investors protect themselves from that inflation? How do you make that $8,200 worth something today? Now, we're going to get into how the new administration, Janet Yellen, are committed to raising minimum wage, which is good for people, and it's good to try to help people get out of their debts and to have a better lifestyle. But the government can't really do that without devaluing the dollar or purchasing power. By forcing that. And so that's like what you're talking about with the Mustang, where if you have $8,200 and X amount of years later, the same thing costs $40,000, it didn't really help you. If you were paid more, it didn't help you because your money devalued faster than the things that you want cost.
That's right. That's what I'm always talking to people about, that and giving an example like that and saying, if you had that money in the bank and even if it made 5%, it wouldn't be enough to buy a brand new Mustang today because real inflation real world inflation is different than what the CPI says. And, when we're talking about that, when we're talking about what the CPI says, for those people in our audience that may not know, in the 90s, they changed the CPI and made it reflect things differently. You can actually go and see what the index would look like today, as opposed to what it actually looks like today, and it would be significantly higher. So inflation is something that's digging into our purchasing power, which makes it more difficult to buy things, and ends up costing more, and puts us more into debt. I want to remind you in the listening audience, if you just tuned in, you're listening to Financial Strategies with Andrew and Daniel Adjemi, because people don't know what people don't know. We want to educate you. We want you to help you understand things from a financial realm that will put you in a better position when you're talking to your advisor. You can ask the proper questions in the proper way, or just be able to make smart financial decisions. We have for you today a companion piece that goes along with today's show called "Don't Let Long-Term Care Be Your Financial Blind Spot." Don't let long-term care be your financial blind spot. For retirees and people close to retiring, long-term care, or as far as health costs, are a significant piece of inflation, and are going up so fast. And that's something that will be able to affect people, and may actually cause people to run out of money if they don't handle their money properly prior to that time. So we want to give you this piece, long-term care piece. When you call 800-725 7616 725 7616, and speak with Megan. She'll be glad to be able to get you that companion piece today. Daniel, so President Biden is trying to do some things. Jenny, he's going to be kind of moderate, you feel, and with what's happening with our economy and with the things, he's trying to put out this 1.9 million stimulus packet. I'm sorry, trillion. Yes, right. That's right. I wish it was only a million, right? $1 trillion package. And Janet Yellen's looking to make the divide from the poverty level to the middle class lesser from that standpoint, with the raising minimum wage and all those kinds of things. And then you talked earlier too about how the U.S. can just print more money, and they have been printing more money. And you were talking about how eventually that catches up, because to me that's just the rule of nature. That's you reap what you sow kind of thing. You're talking about how these zombie companies are not going out of business when they should be going out of business, and eventually what goes around comes around, and people are faced with that at whatever point, and so it could be disastrous for our country, but certainly more importantly for our individuals within our country. And that's why we're bring this to people today on our show, to be able to help them to be able to not just understand how bad the problem can be with inflation and with this hidden invisible tax that we're talking about as far as inflation goes, but what to do about it, right? We also want to know what to do about it, and hedging it and that kind of thing, which we'll get along later, I know, in the show. But
well, that's why we're giving out that white paper, because each person's inflation is different. Why do I say that? Well, you just gave a perfect story about buying a Mustang and how it basically doubled what inflation did. The basket that the government uses to judge inflation. Well, if you were in the market for a Mustang, why would you care what the basket did? You care what you can actually buy. And so because we're trying to help retirees, we're offering that white paper on long-term care, because this is a way that people can protect themselves from something that is going up way faster than whatever the CPI is on inflation, right? So Here's how you can protect yourself from this tax, from this invisible tax. Because if you put those liabilities on a good company's balance sheet instead of your own, then they cover that exorbitant amount of inflation in long-term care, as opposed to you having to do that. Could you imagine if you could buy insurance for the price of a vehicle going up, right? when you were looking at that thing, and you could get some insurance that said, we'll let you buy this thing at X date for this price, and all you have to do is give us this premium. So there's ways you can do that, and that's why we're giving out that white paper. That's one step that people can do to help them. But it depends on what stage of life you're in, what your inflation is, right? Student loans are another thing that have killed people because that's gone up way faster than, education has gone up way faster than
big
anything
business.
that the Fed measures.
Yep. Right. I am right with you there. Different strokes for different folks. There's different measures. There's different things that are important to different people, and inflation is different depending what age bracket you're in and what you're trying to do. And so Daniel was mentioning that that paper that we have today, Don't Let Long-Term Care Be Your Financial Blind Spot. I just want to let you know in our listening audience that it's not that we're necessarily proponents of long-term care insurance as much as we are proponents of you preparing for long-term care and understanding that the cost of long-term care is going to go up. And there's nobody that I know that has on their bucket list, oh, I want to die in a convalescent home, right? People want to die at home typically. We all know that we're going to die at some point. We don't want to die in some institution as much as we'd prefer to die at home. So the key is making sure that your money is prepared in a way to be able to make sure you don't run out of money, whether before you run out of life, whether you need it for long-term care or you need it for other aspects of living. And that's the idea. We want to offer that piece to you. Long-term care, just call and ask for it by name. Long-term care. It's Don't Let Long-Term Care Be Your Financial Blind Spot. We have that available for you. And because we want to make sure, we want to educate you, help you make smart decisions. We also have for the next 5 callers the book Tax Invisible, short, easy read book, almost a pamphlet that can give you some really good information about what we're talking about today: inflation, taxation, and ways that you can hedge against that and prepare yourself so that you don't have to pay more tax than what you need to pay. We have that book Tax Invisible to the next 5 callers at 800-725-7616, 800-725-7616. And we'll be right back after this.
I'm David Scranton, founder of the Retirement Income Store. If you're in or near retirement, are you certain you have the right retirement plan in place? Do you want to help ensure your nest egg will last you all throughout retirement? Take our retirement review quiz and find out in 5 minutes or less if you're doing everything you can to achieve a more successful retirement.
Visit us online at agemy.com. That's AGEMY.com.